Oh, Eric, I forgot to put you in. What's up, you guys? Do that but better. And here in the waiting room, it's Eric. And we are back again. It was almost a solo show. Eric, is it have you guys started school yet?
Eloise is at her first day of first grade right now.
Dang. I didn't even
Yep.
see a Facebook post.
Yeah, I didn't make one.
That's that's obligatory.
I know, man. What a terrible parent.
Yeah. We actually start Thursday, so we still got a couple days left. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
Well, so now it's time for lunches and school lunches and what do we pack to eat,
For real.
which is always a mess. And
Yep.
Eric, I'm gonna have to tell you, I am just mad at food right now. I feel like so there's so much information out there, and this is good, this is bad, and this diet, that diet, and this is nothing new.
Yeah.
We definitely have more access to information. You used to just have the daily news that would give you a report that a glass of wine will make you live longer,
Yeah.
right? But now it's like you're inundated with it absolutely everywhere, and it's really hard to know where to turn.
Absolutely.
Now you work with people on nutrition, and now uh, take me through a little bit of the way that you work when it comes to um, working with nutrition.
So it's very, we call it client centered. So looking at what is it that this specific person wants to accomplish,
Hmm.
how quickly do you want to accomplish it, and what are you willing to do that?
Mm,
Because that's really the challenge is people's expectations and desires don't match what they're willing to put in, like the work that they're willing to put in or the changes that they're willing to make to accomplish
yeah,
that thing. So really you need to like get those aligned and get realistic about like here's what whatever you're saying your schedule or your lifestyle is going to be. Okay, then here's the realistic results you can expect. And so then you can start to move that needle a little bit at a time, um, so that you create a new normal, right? So if people are unhappy where they're at, maybe they can just make some small changes and get to a new normal, and then from there they make another small change and gradually work toward that big goal. Some people are all in right from the start. You can just tell them to do whatever you want, and they'll just do it.
yeah,
But most people need the steps.
for sure. And I feel like I've I've gone like I swing the pendulum, you
Hmm.
know, and I think that the most sustainable way is to learn these sustainable steps and make small progress, just like lifting weights. It's like, hey, add 5 pounds and then go
Yep.
home, and that's all you need. And I also feel like it's so important to straight up just uh, go ham sandwich and that's it. And so many of these when we're taking these little steps, I think that there's there's times where people go, well, it's just this little thing. And I feel like sometimes we need a little bit of fear mongering. And I think that that was one of the best things that helped me learn new stuff.
Hmm.
And reading something and going, sugar is going to kill you, it's killing everyone, I'm taking it out of the house. And when I saw somebody eating something with sugar, like, I wanted to knock it out of their hand and yell at them. and uh and like and I felt horrible if I did, you know, and uh it's a miserable place to be, but I feel that sometimes people need to go, this is not good, and 100% believe it.
Hmm.
And I feel like you can also come back from that and change your mind. But there's so many things that are wreaking havoc on people. And here's what we're gonna do. I'm fear mongering everybody right now. All right. Number one, sugar. Get it out of your life. Dairy, processed foods, any of your grains. All right. These things are killing you, and you need to stop eating them right now. All right.
That's one approach. Yeah. Yep.
So, all right. So number one, so like when especially when it comes to sugar, we are so inundated with it, and there like so we've had like the whole move to macros, and hey, guess
Hmm.
what? I get to have Fruit Loops every day, and now they have still shown that large amounts of sugar in your diet, whether it fits into a uh, caloric deficit or anything that you need, or even just into your caloric needs of the day. High amounts of
Right. Like
sugar,
if you're doing your macros and you're like,
yeah, and
hey,
you're
I hit my macros.
and you've got great body composition and all that. They're still showing that it is um, that is not good for you long term, right?
Hmm.
And so there is all this stuff where it's like we're saying that no, it's okay, and for all intents and purposes, it's not. All right. And so like trying to find how does that fit into my nutrition is super important. And
Hmm.
for the most part, it's not in it. We get sugar from things like fruits and from our carbohydrates. And so our, eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, right? And we're talking about no added sugar. And
Yep.
it's really important because it's very hard to only have some.
Yep. Yeah. It's a
And
biological trick that like sugar should something that's really sweet as sugar, should not be available year round at a moment's notice throughout the day
yeah,
in your candy dish on your desk. Like it should be, there's a raspberry bush down the street
yeah,
that for like 2 weeks, walking to the park, you're like, oh, go ahead, grab a raspberry or two.
yeah.
Right? Because everything else is eating them too. Or like we have a blueberry bush next to the house. I ate one blueberry off of it because the birds were all over it. I couldn't keep them away. Like that's how difficult it should be to get something really sweet.
Just think about that. And so you're doing that at this time. I remember mom and dad talking about you did not have fruit or like in season fruit all year round, right? And
Yeah.
actually at our church pageants, right, you'd get an apple and an orange in a bag of peanuts. And and from what I've heard, that tradition started because that was like a real treat because you didn't have apples and oranges
Right.
uh, in the winter. And so that's probably like fruitcake and whatever else.
Yeah.
But now we have this crap all all the time, and not only do we have it all the time, we have as much as we want.
Yeah.
And so now add that to your processed foods, your processed carbohydrates, your processed sugars, right? And now you are just overloading yourself. And think about, I want you to sit down and think about the things that you ate today, right? And was it a grain? Was it a fruit? Was it did it have some type of added sugar? So look, did it have ingredients? And
Hmm.
look in it. Did it say glycol something? Did did it say high fructose? Whatever. And almost everything that you have, I dare you to find the things that doesn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like I said, it's a trick. And I think recognizing it that way helps when you're approaching foods, uh, to be able to look at it and be like, oh, they are tricking me into loving this.
Hmm.
Like, there's a reason that they're putting that all. Like, there was a commercial, I think it was a Yoplait commercial, where they did a taste test with Yoplait and whatever leading Greek yogurt, and Yoplait wins every time. Like, yeah, no kidding, because it's full of a ton of sugar. Like, of course they win the taste test. Like,
Yeah,
that's the whole point of the sugar, is to trick you into thinking this is really good. Like, and tricking your body into thinking like we need to get more of that because it's dense calories, and
right.
that should be more difficult to come by.
Yeah. Speaking of, so dairy, another one, another one that's huge. And if you think of the old food pyramid, this was a large piece of it. Uh, and it was like, oh, you need to get X amount of servings of dairy. For most of humanity, you weren't going and sucking on the teat of a cow. You know what I mean? It's like, how in the world did that become part of the pyramid of a healthy diet, right?
Well, and
And
even, I mean, they've been like, you know, I think we've been um, farming and ranching for a long time. People have been using dairy, but if you've got one cow, like that's what you've got for milk, cheese, butter. Like, you're working with one thing. You're not, you don't have an endless supply of dairy at your fingertips, or you're probably selling it,
yeah,
to to other people. So yeah, like the quantity, not to mention the stuff that they shoot into the cows.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got all kinds of hormones and things like that. And I mean, but just think hunter gatherer, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, no, you don't have that. And for most people, um, after the age of 5,
Close
I
the door,
think it
Joe.
is, there, so many people have trouble with lactose, and so digestive problems and things like that that are causing all kinds of other problems. I just took off my
Mm.
shoe and then I wanted it back on. But so you have all kinds of digestive problems, but people go, but I love me some cheese, and I'll tell you what, I do too. But you start noticing some differences. I remember the first time cutting out dairy to try and eat like the paleo diet, and um, just there when I started eating dairy again, I couldn't believe that I was congested and I didn't know it. Like, it was like, oh, I felt this before, but it was just my normal state of affairs. And it was like, oh wow. So maybe I do really have to look into this and see if this is something that, like, how do I eat it? Are there, like, no, is it just that I'm having too much? Is it because I've never really drank milk. Like, that was not just something that we did in our
I know.
house.
I know. I
But
think about that all the time. That, like, we would have gallons of milk go bad in a
yes.
family of six. And I know, I remember going to dinner at a friend's house, a family of four, and they would go through a gallon at
Yes.
dinner.
Yes. Like, that was always dumbfounding me because yeah, we didn't drink it, but we would crush cheese, which
Yeah.
is funny because you go, well, I don't drink milk, and it's like, well, I eat a crap ton of cheese. I probably eat about a gallon of cheese, and equally, just not necessarily beneficial. There can be things that are just totally fine. Go ahead and have some dairy, but is this, and you'll uh, especially people who are cutting out grains, right? You go, all right, gluten's bad. I'm gonna eat the cheese off a pizza,
Hmm.
and or even like keto, right? And you just start eating a bunch of crap, and it's like, man, our bodies have not been eating that in these amounts uh, for a very long time. Like, this is
Yeah.
this is new stuff because we keep on changing stuff up. And like you said, yeah, there's been talks about hormones and antibiotics and all these things with the way that they produce our dairy, and even even we can go to our meat. So number one, are we eating real meat? When you go into the grocery store and you see ham that says gluten free, it's like, what in the world are you talking about? Why would there be gluten in my ham? Because gluten is a protein in wheat. And it's like, all right, what's going on with this ham that it has other things? And it might have sugar, right? It's like,
Oh
wait a
yeah.
minute, I thought I was getting protein. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I forgot that there's sugar in it. There's gluten for whatever for whatever reason. And it's like, well, that's not a real animal.
Hmm.
This is something that looks like an animal. And this is super important. Like when you start thinking about processed foods, you go, all right, well, I'm eating a granola bar and it's all real things. And it's like, well, sort of. Uh, do you know the ingredients that are on it?
Hmm.
And could you, like, is this something, I like to think of when you think of even just your grains, you got bread. If I was hunter gatherer, I was I was not eating bread because you don't pick it up and you don't pick up wheat and eat it. You have to shift it or sift it or whatever the word is, and then you roll it into dough and with water and bake it. Like, this is a process. And so if this is most of what I'm eating, and think about what is the easiest stuff. If you don't have very much food in your house, what happens? Grilled cheese, right? And it's like,
Yep.
oh, look, I got my grains, which is not one of those things that you would necessarily have all the time. And then I've got my cheese, again, not something. It's like, hey, what happened to real things like plants and animals?
Yep. Yeah, and even, going back to the milk thing, I always think like that milk is intended to make a calf grow huge real fast.
Hmm.
So consider that when you're using that to try to lose weight,
Right.
right? I mean, it's a ton of protein and fat. It is like it's trying to get them huge and really
Yeah.
quickly so that predators don't eat them.
Yeah. And actually, they've shown studies that they feel that just ordinary milk use, or which I don't know how much that is, but that um, they're saying that there's links to early sexual maturation, right? And so don't know if that's, don't know how accurate that is. Don't know,
Hmm.
is it in response with other things? But yeah, like this could be affecting people.
Yeah.
Now, when yeah, so when we're looking at any of these ideas, so your grains, your dairy, sugar, um, you know, I think that when you start to cut them out, you really start to learn, what am I eating? Because those, especially those three things, I feel like those are the go-tos for most people, and you can end up, man, I am so itchy. I'm like touching my face like crazy. I don't know why I'm so itchy. It's probably dairy. But yeah, I think that you have to relearn how to eat. And I think that it's super important. And eventually you can have something sustainably, right? And go, oh yeah, I am gonna eat some cheese. But I figured out that I don't have to eat the block of cheese every time that the fontanella comes out. And there's that's my jam. But I almost feel like there's times that people have to do that, where you go, um, these things are killing me, right? And I want you to almost hate the person next to you that's doing it, um, because you believe it so strongly. Because
Mhm.
for me, that's sometimes the way that I need to like address it before I make it important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you thinking about tuning guitar strings. You always like tune it down past where you want it and then
Mm,
bring it back up to the right spot. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing. You have to go past, just get all the way out of the comfort zone. You have to eliminate it completely and then ease back into like what's comfortable and what's sustainable without going back off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Now, what are some other what are some other fear mongering ideas about food? So we got dairy, we've got
Do you
we've
want
got
to
sugar.
fearmonger or things that people shouldn't be afraid of that they are? I guess
Well,
it could be.
number one, first I want to scare them, and then you can tell us what's the real deal.
Okay. Uh, well, one that I had in mind was hunger.
Okay.
When's the last time you actually felt hungry? Conlon's feeling it right now.
Interesting question. I've there was this song that there's a band House, and I remember them saying like in the song it said I've never known true hunger, and I thought about that, and I'm like, holy crap, I probably never have, and you know the most I've ever done, I did a 2 day fast just as an experiment, and it wasn't bad, and I feel like most times that I ever really felt like eating. It was like I felt like eating. It was habits that I have when I walk in my house,
Hmm.
especially like with things that I've done where I was planning my meals and it was like eating every couple hours and hey, when I do this, then I grab my peanut butter or whatever it is.
Yep. Or I worked
And
out and now I'm wasting my workout because I'm
yes,
not hitting the window of gains.
yeah, and so I literally don't know like what hunger really is and what that feeling might be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, we talk about it in a way as if you're supposed to be scared of it.
Hmm.
That, you know, use this diet because you'll lose weight and you won't feel hungry.
Hmm.
It's like feeling hungry is not a bad thing. You should feel hungry more often.
That's not a bad idea. I
Yeah.
uh I always use the phrase I got it from Joe DeSena, and he said when you feel like you have to quit, or like when you feel that you need to stop, and I put it to hunger too, you have about 8 days left in you.
Yeah.
And like when you start thinking about that, you're like 8 days. It's like actually when it comes to hunger, yeah, you do. You easily do. 8
Yep.
freaking days. And the more body fat that I have, the more days I probably have, right?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, hunger is uh it's just an obstacle that we got to go over. I Natalie, she like when she gets hungry, she gets like hungry and it's like like the house, like we might walk into the house and like she's like, I'm like so hungry, and she's like she has to get something, and I'm like, what? No, she's like, the kids need to eat too, and I'm like, I think that we're okay. but but I'm also like I get the opposite, like sometimes like when I feel like that, I sometimes like to go, I'm not gonna eat. I'm really hungry. but
Yep.
uh but yeah, like that. And if you think about it, how often or how long do you go without eating a meal? And you can easily
I mean, the
do a
longest
day.
people normally go is however long you sleep.
Yeah,
Like that's the longest stretch
it
most people
would
go.
it which is like ridiculous. It's like 8 hours maybe. you know
Hmm.
and yeah, you can easily go multiple hours and you're going to be fine. And to be honest, if you did it more often, you probably would become more like metabolically flexible to where your body starts using fat better for regeneration of energy, and you wouldn't feel that like that big crash like you do when you're eating very often, when you're
Hmm.
eating lots of processed foods, like highly processed carbohydrates, which are going to spike your blood sugar. Then you have a big crash. Now you're angry. Now you want to eat somebody's arm, and you're looking for Skittles out of the vending machine,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we went back to, hey, I'm going to eat. I'm eating real foods. I'm gonna stay full longer, right? If I'm getting quality proteins and vegetables, and I'm getting fiber and things like that, as opposed to this processed food.
Yep. Yeah, I always tell people hunger is not an emergency.
Mm.
Like, not only can you go a month without eating, but you're also surrounded by food at all times. I mean, like, unless you are
I
out
never
in the
even thought
desert,
about that.
you are only like, I don't know, 2 minutes from food at any one time. Like, take a breath, relax. Like, you are not about to keel over.
Yeah,
You're totally fine. It's just your body's expecting it because it always gets it.
right.
So now, you can change the expectation.
I like that. Man, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, even even if you're in a food desert, right? And it's like, how far away am I? And how far away um like medical hunger might I
Right.
be? Now,
Yeah.
now,
Like, you're
now,
not going to pass out unless you're like
now,
diabetic. Uh,
there you go. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Um, I like that. Now, obviously, I've never been in that situation, so super fortunate to go. I've always had food. Actually, I was talking to somebody one time, and it was really interesting because it was a young person um, in town, and I was asking them what, when they were in high school, because like they were recently out of high school. I was like, like what was the one thing that you really needed help with, or like that you like um I forgot how we even phrased it, but they were like, in school they really enjoyed when they had free lunch, or I'm sorry, free breakfast, right? And they said that was when they were going to eat. Now I have been fortunate enough to never even be close to that. you
hmm
know and so that is something that I don't know, and I do realize that even close to home, right, it is like, that is a real problem. you know I am talking um for for people who are not in that situation.
right.
For like, if you have never thought, where is my next meal going to come from, right, then you're probably doing pretty good, and hunger is not an emergency.
Yeah. If you're thinking about your nutrition and like, I need to lose weight, I should probably eat less.
Absolutely. Yes. So, all right, we got hunger, we've got dairy. We talked a little
Mhm.
bit about processed foods. All right, so processed foods, and I'm gonna throw grains in there too. So especially in the original food pyramid, it was like, get mostly grains, and it's like, again, what the heck? That was not like the main source of food for a very long time in human history.
It was a well subsidized base of the pyramid.
Right. And and so now, especially in exercise, especially with when as the CrossFit Games grew, and you had people who are working out 6 hours a day, and you've got marathon runners, and you've got all these things, we all think that not only do you need to have them, like, hey, we need to have our whole grains, we like, it's a staple, and they're fine. Some people can have them, and they're also not a necessity.
hmm
There is no necessary carbohydrate for life. Now, your body will make sugar out of protein and fats, and those are those are a necessity for life. So these are the things that we need to have. That is something that some people can have. And
Mm-hmm.
when we and even in the gym, you get people that are like, man, I was cutting carbs, and number one, don't know what that means. Like, were you measuring? Did you how much were you having in the first place, and then what are you having now? And they're like, I just don't feel any energy. It's like, well, what are you eating now? Right? And like, are you eating nothing? And is it just that I'm not feeling, or like, is it that my body is adjusting?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And it's like, we don't necessarily have to. You can get fiber in other things besides whole grains. You can get energy. Your body will make energy for all kinds of things, or with all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a necessity, and it's not necessarily a part of a healthy diet. It can be.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like depending on what other stuff you're eating. If
Yeah,
you're vegan, you're probably going to need to use some grains to combine things and get the proteins and vitamins you're looking for. But for most people, if you're eating, your normal meats, you're you're going to be fine without any grains.
yeah. And energy wise, you're going to be fine if you get enough calories, and if your body is metabolizing them well, and so on and so
Right.
forth.
And when you look at, you know, CrossFit Games athletes or whatever, strongmen, powerlifters, runners, like they're burning a ton of calories. So they're eating, most likely, they're eating all of the healthy stuff plus this other um, like calorie dense, nutrient light food just to have more calories.
Right.
Like they're literally doing the opposite of what you want to do. Right? They're burning so many calories, they need extra just from general crap. And you are trying to cut calories by eating all the nutritious stuff.
Right. Yeah, and this comes back down to, fitness in 100 words, right? Eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. And then, and you can go either way with this, because now you go, hey, I'm trying to perform at this level, and or this is my goal. Maybe it's body fat, maybe it's body composition, and keep intake to levels that support exercise and not body fat. Right now, if you're a strongman competitor, all right, you don't necessarily want tons of body fat, because body fat does not contract, right? But they're going to have they're possibly going to have more, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's totally, because mass moves mass. So they are eating for the amount of body fat that they want,
Yeah.
right? And same thing with a games athlete. A games athlete is not going to be competing to have body fat. They need to move fast. They want to be lean. Now that percentage can be different. There's going to be people who work better with a higher body fat percentage, and
Mm-hmm.
who people who work better with a lower body fat percentage. And actually, I just saw something that said that I think that people who have about I think it's close to 30% body fat, um, like, live the longest. So
Interesting.
so it's sort of interesting, like the the recommendations are, like, in like the 20s,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we want to be somewhere in here, but having just a little bit more might actually help you live longer. Which, when you look at CrossFit has always said that form follows function, right? And so if I am super functional, if I am stronger, if I have more endurance, if I have more flexibility, coordination, agility, balance, the list goes on, right? Then I'm getting fitter.
Mm-hmm.
And that might look different from person to person.
Yeah.
Now, lots of times, if you think that if I'm stronger, if I can move my body weight better, so say that I can do more push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups, right? Then I'm probably going to see more muscle mass plus less body fat, because again, body fat doesn't necessarily make me move my body better. Same thing if I have more endurance and speed um, and things like that. So what what body fat percentage I'm able to work really well at is going to differ, and it doesn't really matter if it fits into this thing if it's keeping me healthy.
No, Joseph. Um, yeah, that's something, Camille LeBlanc Bazinet
Mm-hmm.
has posted about a lot because I think when she first got into CrossFit, she felt like she was carrying more fat than the other
Yeah,
female competitors. And so she tried to lean down and she wasn't performing as well. So she let her body fat be a little bit higher because she performed better there. And I mean,
yeah,
you look at what's her name? She was on Reykjavik. I mean, you can look at that team this year
yeah.
with Annie Thor's daughter and what's her name?
Oh, Lauren Fisher.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they're like the opposite ends of the spectrum,
yeah,
right? Like Lauren Fisher gets crap all the time because she has like a barrel chested body. Like that's just how she is. She's super strong, and that's how she
yeah,
competes well. And then you got Annie Thor's daughter, who's like crazy lean with abs on abs,
yeah. Like you can stick like two fingers into her abs. Like there's that like
and they'll
just
probably
carved
bite you.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
And
like
both
they're both at their
ridiculously
top.
high
Like,
performers
yeah, exactly.
and perfectly healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah. So form follows function.
Hmm. Which that could be a fear monger right there. Like being afraid of looking a certain way or not looking a certain way and getting used to the idea of the function first.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. All right, sugar. We got so processed foods. We got grains, dairy, hunger. Anything else?
Man, what else is there to be scared of? Salt.
Ooh, yeah,
Man, I got into I think I got blocked on a YouTube video once. It was the Nick Massey Paleo Nick.
yeah,
And one of the recipes, I mean, it just had like a normal amount of salt,
yeah.
whatever, in the recipe. And someone commented like, "How can you call this healthy when you're putting sodium in it?" I'm like, "Dude, you would die if you didn't eat sodium. You know that? Like,
Yeah,
you need salt to live. Like, come
yeah.
on, people."
And people are drinking Gatorade for their electrolytes and right.
Right.
I need Gatorade, not salt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, that one I think has been stigmatized, and probably because people, you know, are eating canned soup for lunch every day.
Yes, the
You're
processed foods.
right. It's everything that has to have salt in it to keep it from spoiling,
Yeah,
right? And if you stop eating all that stuff and eat real food, then you're going to need to add more salt, especially if you're working out in the summer, sweating. You need to add salt to your food.
yeah. Yeah, and you know what? If you're eating real food and you're adding the salt to something that doesn't have a label, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, talk to your doctor if you have some specific recommendations or anything like that. But
Blood pressure
uh,
issues, stuff like
yeah, but if you look at the sodium content in processed foods, it's ridiculous. If
that.
you
Hmm.
look at the sodium content in your raw piece of chicken or beef or spinach, it's like you can put salt in your food. And
Yeah.
so the problem wasn't the salt, it was your choice in foods in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. There we go. I think though that's uh that's a pretty good list. So
Yeah.
number 1, stop eating sugar. Don't eat grains, don't eat dairy, you're not hungry, and you can eat salt.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take anything away, that's what you should tell your friends, and that's the diet that you should be on right now.
Yep. You should stop everything you're doing and do that right now. Throw away everything else.
There we go. All right. We will see you guys next week for Do That But Better. Eric. I will see you next week.
All right. See ya.
Bye bye.